Jaylen Brown dropped a three-quarter triple-double against the Golden State Warriors to help the Celtics get back into the win column straight from the All-Star break. It's looking good in Boston right now. They played some really great basketball, apart from a fourth quarter where the Warriors decided to get a little bit tricky. All in all, though, great start to a West Coast road trip. I'm your boy, Adam Taylor. If you're new here, I cover the Boston Celtics for USA Today, for Heavy.com, and most importantly, for the Celtics Chronicle newsletter. Links in the description. And today, I'm joined by my homie, compadre, co-host in crime, Mr. Billy Calabrese. What's poppin',
Dude, there's
Billy?
nothing better than having the Celtics on the West Coast with me, man. This is the best.
Dude, so the tip-off for me was 3 a.m. So, like, by the time I woke up, the game had been finished like 10, 15 minutes. By the time I'd finished watching the first watch through, it was like, okay, the press conferences are just being uploaded. It just flowed so well. And, like, it makes no difference to me if it's on the East or the West because I'm watching it the next day anyway. Well, the next day for me, overnight for you guys. But, man, I feel like the Celtics just, because a lot of those guys probably traveled over to the West Coast a few days ago, they'd adjusted to the time zone. It wasn't just like, hey, we need to fly in and get started straight away. They hit the ground running early, dude. They played some really good basketball during, like, mainly like the second and third quarters, but even the first was some good ball.
Yeah, I thought that was maybe the best we've seen Jaylen Brown, man, all season. I mean, that was really impressive to come back from the All-Star break. He looked refreshed. It looked like he was really like having a rough January, and that rest did him wonders.
Yeah, I mean, this is his first year carrying the team as a first option. It's going to be heavier on the legs than probably what he expected, especially with the usage rate that he's dealing with. But he played well, man. 15 rebounds. Joe kind of shouted out his accountability on rebounding after the game. Joe was like, one of the things that he really fucked with was the way that Brown held himself accountable on the glass. And I think that, you know, when you don't have Tatum out there and you're now the number one guy, rebounding becomes important for you just because of what you've lost from Tatum. So it was a big game. 13 assists with only 2 turnovers is also a great development for JB. I thought the overall style of play was fantastic. Get downhill, really attack the fact that Golden State doesn't have a genuine rim protector down there. So you're constantly going to force help. Once that help comes, make the read and kick out. It very much like early Joe Mazzulla basketball, like his first season there, where it was like drive the lane, kick it out. Draw the 2-on-1 on the drive, so then you can kick out to the open man. And guys just made their shots. I mean, what is it? Pritchard went 6 of 11 from deep. Hauser went 4 of 5. Harper Jr. went 2 of 4. Vooch 1 of 2. Walsh 1 of 1. Hugo 1 of 3. If the only guy that really struggled was Derek White on 0 of 5. Brown went 0 of 3, but you can overlook it because he was 10 of 18 overall. But yeah, like guys were making their shots because they were getting good quality open looks with a defender like 3 or 4 steps behind on the closeout. So the style of play, the pace of play, everything just looked really crisp. And I get that the Warriors were shorthanded, you know, no Steph, obviously no Jimmy, he's out for the season, no Seth Curry, neither KP on a minutes restriction. It wasn't like they faced a full quality Golden State team. But you can only beat what's in front of you. And I thought the Golden State really did a good job of trying to make life tough, especially defensively. And the Celtics just had answers everywhere they looked. I want to shout out Derek White as well. Might have gone over 5 from deep, but did dish out 8 assists. He's been a really good source of like shot creation for this team, playmaking, shot creation. Peyton Pritchard came off the bench, dished out 7 assists as well. It was just an all-round quality night.
Yeah, don't you think they had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder tonight because they're playing against, you know, 2 NBA champions? You got Al Horford out there and you got Porzingis, guys that, you know, they have such a close relationship with. And I think that everybody assumed that we would be worse without. I thought they came into this game kind of like, let's make a little statement here. Let's prove a point, and then let's show these guys what they're missing not being in Boston anymore. I thought it was really cool because when Curry was announced that he was out, I thought like this guy had trap game written all over it. And really it just made our guys even more motivated to kind of show like, no, the Celtics are still the Celtics.
Yeah, Brandon and I spoke about it being a trap game on yesterday's podcast when we kind of just previewed the West Coast swing. And it was the same thing, like, hey, somebody on that roster is going to step up and get a 20-point night because the shots have to go somewhere and the usage rate has to go somewhere. So naturally, somebody's going to have a big night. Now, nobody went for 20, but there was a very well-distributed scoring chart from the Warriors. Rui Santos had 17. DeAnthony Melton had 18. Will Richard had 17. He's been great for Golden State, by the way. I really like Will Richard. Gary Payton II had 14. Kristaps got 12. But I do agree that, like, hey, trap game was very much in play here. When you think about the only true veteran on that team was Draymond Green. You can put the Anthony Melton in there if you want, but he's still working his way back after his ACL injury last season. So, like, it was definitely a potential trap game where the Warriors could have really shot Boston if they came in and didn't not take it seriously, but expected an easy win. But no, you're right. There was a bit of a chip on their shoulder with the way they approach things. I also think that, you know, these things mean more to fans than probably to the players, but they're close to a 40-20 mark. They're 36 and 19 after this win. So they need to go 4-0 now to hit that 40-20 mark. This is a really tough West Coast swing where you're facing some genuinely quality teams in the West. Start off with a win, play well, move on to the Lakers, come in with a bit of momentum. And I want your opinion on this. We spoke about this yesterday. I think one of the hardest things is being a hot team and then having this break, like the All-Star break, and then having to rebuild momentum from scratch and doing that away from home in the Bay Area in front of Golden State fans, and then being tasked with going straight into the crypto a few days later and doing it again. I think this was a really tough kind of like reset for the Celtics. So that chip on the shoulder was probably more necessary because you need to rebuild that.
That's
momentum.
all credit to Joe. What he's doing to motivate the guys, keeping them focused so that we aren't really seeing that. I do think a lot of it also has to be attributed to how hard they played these first pre-All-Star break games. Everybody just kind of needed a break, take a breath. And now they kind of like, okay, now we see the home stretch coming. Now we see Tatum coming back. I kind of feel like they see there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and all their hard work is paying off with obviously what's going to be a really high seed, either 2 or 3 probably.
Yeah, I think that, there does need to be that kind of, hey, we need to lock in now because there's a chance that we're going to be in this for the long haul. I'm not saying NBA Finals team. I'm not saying the Eastern Conference team. I'm not going to put my neck on the line just yet. There's still quite a bit of basketball to be played yet. But they're going to be in this for the long haul. The way they played, just their commitment to finding different ways to win. In this game, it was attack the driving kick, attack the secondary side of the ball. I think that if Tatum comes back, and this is kind of what I want to touch on now, there's going to be an adjustment period. But if you can build enough breathing space now, if you can keep stacking these wins now to where you have a little bit of a cushion as the second seed or a little bit of a cushion as the third seed with enough like with whoever's above you still within touching distance, that you can navigate any teething issues of reintegrating Tatum quite comfortably. And I think that that's going to be key if you do think he's coming back. So coming into these games, understanding the urgency of trying to keep pace with the guys in front of you, while also building some breathing room between you and the teams behind you. I think that's really important because it will get clunky for the first 2, 3, maybe 4 games. Bringing Tatum back. Hell, you saw it with Vooch. Like, Vooch came in and the first 2 or 3 games were really kind of fragmented. You had some good stretches, some bad stretches, because the whole rotation shifts, minutes distribution changes, roles start to get tweaked, and players take a few games to adjust to that.
Yeah, because I think we're still a long way away from seeing what Vooch can really bring to this team. I don't think anybody's going to be, telling their grandkids about these first few games with Vooch coming off the bench. I honestly don't think he's been very impressive, but you can see like the planting of a seed of where he can really be effective. He's actually been really good as a screener, which is something that he's been criticized about pretty much his whole career that he just doesn't do. And it's like Joe got in his ear literally first day and is like, hey, the big men on this team, they screen. And he's been doing a great job. I do think that Keita has still separated himself for that starting spot, but like I said, it's really early. It's really tough to only judge Vooch by a handful of games.
Yeah, and I think saying he hasn't been impressive is a slightly harsh. I don't think it's completely unfair. I think that there's been some games where I'm like, dude, he's looked like a genuine spark plug for them off the bench. His passing has been just an additional dimension that the Celtics didn't have at the 5, and they missed that from when Horford was in the rotation. I think he's kind of plugged that, where you can run actions with him off the elbow or around the nail, or you can hit him in the post and trust that he's going to make the right read, whether that's to get the ball out of his hands or to back you down or face up. I think it's just added a dimension. And like you say, he hasn't been like right home about. It's not somebody that you're going to start writing odes for while you're at the bar with your boys, but he's definitely slowly improving. And this kind of leads me on to a potential Tatum return. And obviously, I think that all Celtics discourse finds its way back here because it's the biggest what if in the franchise right now, surrounding the franchise. And we're at a point where if he's going to return, it really needs to be in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I think the longer you leave it, the less ramp up he has. The more difficult it is for him to be at a level where he's going to make a genuine difference in the postseason. And the reason I want to bring this up is because we just spoke about how like Vooch is still finding his feet. The team has only really adjusted to the new rotation, the new roles over the last 2 or 3 games. If that, maybe the last 2 games, this was probably the best they've looked since losing Simons and bringing Vooch in. And they've had some practices, so that's probably helped bed things in. But when you look at it, it's like, okay, when Tatum comes back, minutes are going to need to be taken away from other guys to make room. And I'm looking at the rotation from last night. So Jaylen Brown is not going to lose minutes. We know that for a fact. Sam Hauser is not going to lose minutes. His minutes, they might decrease a little bit, actually. Hauser played 27.5 minutes last night. Baylor Scheinman played 24 minutes. He could lose some minutes. Ron Harper Jr. played 11. Vooch played 27. Jordan Walsh played 7. Hugo played 12. Luka played 2. So when I'm looking at this, I'm like, Tatum's probably on a 20-minute restriction to begin with. So you need to find 20 minutes elsewhere that you can deduct. So maybe you take 5 minutes from Sam and put him down to 22 minutes. Maybe then you take all of Ron Harper's minutes and that puts you at like 15, 16 minutes. And then you take away the 2 minutes that Garza got. And then you take maybe some of Jordan Walsh's minutes. And I think that one of the first things we need to understand is some of the guys that have been impactful through the season are going to completely be pushed out of the rotation upon a Tatum return. And I think the way things are looking at the moment, I think it's going to be Jordan Walsh that really suffers the most. I think Hugo's starting to separate himself a little bit. And then I think Ron Harper Jr., who's been earning some minutes through some really good play, I think he's the other guy that really suffers. Baylor, for me, because he's playing at a guard position, I think, and the Celtics really don't have that depth, I think he kind of keeps a sizable amount of minutes. But where are you on this, first of all? Because I'm talking about the minutes distribution, because then we can talk about how the next adjustment period looks. Because we've seen such a great adjustment against Golden State that it has to be part of your thought process is like, well, how many games does it take until things start to look fluid again? We've just saw it take 3 or 4 games adding Vooch, and he's a low usage guy compared to what Tatum will be even in his first few games back.
Yeah, I think you basically got to, as much as Harper's been helping us and like his scoring's been a nice surprise. I mean, it starts there. Baylor, Walsh, I think all of them would see less, but I don't think we're at the point, even when Tatum's on this 20-minute restriction, where we're going to see him like leading a bench unit. So it's not going to be like Tatum and 4 bench guys, I don't think, at any given time for at least the first few weeks.
No, not at all.
So you got to play some of these guys. So Baylor's got to be out there when the bench is out there. Walsh will still be able to maybe play his way on the floor, but it's going to be like the stay ready group part 2. It's going to be a different guy each night, depending on the matchups and what, is called upon and who's playing well. If Baylor's playing well, hey, those Hugo minutes could drop. If Hugo's playing well, those Baylor minutes could swap. So I do think it's going to be a lot on Joe just balancing that act, which is not an easy job, but that's why they're the stay ready group.
And the reason I'm looking at this from a minutes distribution standpoint is because Tatum won't be on a minutes restriction forever. It might be a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, but sooner or later, he's going to be back up to 28 to 35 minutes again. And as that happens, guys start to get pushed out of rotation. So I'm looking at it now, trying to look at, which guys are most likely to be out of the rotation, and how is that going to change the way that the offense flows? How is that going to change the way that you play defense? How's it going to change the spacing on the floor? I think that Walsh, granted, I'm not as high as some on Jordan Walsh. I like him. I think he's a good energy guy. I think Hugo is the better prospect, to be quite honest with you, and I'm going with Hugo to keep minutes over Walsh. Now, I know that's controversial in some circles. I know a lot of people are huge on Jordan Walsh just because of the athleticism and the length that he brings. I think Hugo's probably just edging him slowly over the last few months. Ron Harper Jr. is a guy who I see losing all of those minutes because Baylor can give you the ball handling and the guard minutes there. I see. So, you know, you're going to get 11 minutes there. You're going to probably get 7 to 10 minutes that if Hugo gets knocked out, that puts you at 21. And then you just start slowly chopping. Baylor's not going to play 24 minutes if Tatum's back. Maybe he goes down to like 17 or 16. So you can get there, but at least two guys in this rotation are going to find themselves on the outside looking in. And that's okay because we're getting to a point now where rotations start to shrink anyway because you're starting to prepare for the postseason. I do wonder, though, whether we're talking about this too prematurely. And I do wonder whether the whole conversation of how things would look with Tatum back is also premature because we don't know if he's coming back. Now, Brandon and I spoke about this a few days back when Ramona Shelburne posted a video. Well, she was on NBA Today, wasn't she, for ESPN? And she said, like, Tatum's still not sure if he's coming back. So maybe this conversation is premature. But I haven't spoke to you about this in a while. So I wanted your thoughts on whether you think that this is a season where Tatum comes back. If he does, is it going to be that March 1st game against Philly? If not, is it going to be a few days later against Charlotte? At what point do we say, like, okay, the runway for him isn't long enough anymore, so we're just going to shut it down? Or at what point do we be like, hey, we kind of need an answer here, like not us as fans, but like us as like the team needs an answer at some point on whether or not you are coming back.
I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion. I do think the NBA likes building drama where there isn't any. We saw that with Giannis kind of taking over the trade deadline, and then there was no intention of Milwaukee trading him.
I mean, to be fair, he did tweet out the next day or later that day that he'd just purchased a stake in a gambling company. So, you know, take from that what you will.
I really would like to see him investigated for that, but that would be on another show. But with Tatum having a 5-part documentary coming out, for him not to play would be like the most anticlimactic ending to a documentary of all time. I just don't think that's real. I'm totally cool with him using the Chris Haynes and the Ramonas to build up the drama, being like, hey, maybe there is a chance I don't come back. Hey, I haven't really decided. Because, I mean, honestly, he could have one bad day at a workout and have a setback, and he really can't come back. So I don't think he's being like Giannis level misleading, but I do think he is kind of planting the seed. So that way, when you see him come through that tunnel in the Garden, everybody's going to just be like, hell fucking yes.
And what point in the year, like what I'm trying to say is, how deep would it need to be into the season before you're like, yo, there's just no value now because you're just putting yourself.
Oh, I think we're getting there. If it ain't by March 4th, that Charlotte game, I think you can't do it later than that. He needs at least 15 to 20 games of reps before playoff basketball.
That's what I've been saying.
And like, we know he's not going to play back-to-backs. We have some back-to-backs in there. It literally, like, I've been circling February 27th on my calendar. I think that Nets game is the one you ease him back, but everybody's already on to March. So March 1st, March 4th, right in between his birthday. I know that makes a lot of people mad that like he's saving it for his birthday. It's like, he's not. He's coming back when he's ready, guys. Can we grow up?
I think that I'm right there with you. I think if you don't see him by that Hornets game, then the chances of seeing him this season drastically reduce. And I think that if you leave it too late, it's actually more negligent than if you bring him back a couple of days too early, just because the ramp up's going to be so much harder and like the intensity start going to continue to rise now because we're getting into a position where teams are fighting for seeding. We're getting into a position where teams are trying to create a little bit of doubt when you face them. Like, you know, I've always like one of the reasons why everyone felt so comfortable about Boston facing New York last year was because of how often Boston had defeated the Knicks in the regular season. And it turns out New York was probably playing a little bit of possum there. Like, we do start to get into a little bit of like, hey, we can win this game. We sweep the season series. Teams don't want to get swept in their series. The intensity starts to ramp up. Rotations start to get shortened. And if you've got a guy in a minutes restriction as you're trying to shorten your rotation, things start to get a bit difficult. So I do think we're in this kind of home stretch now, next week, 2, maybe 3, and then he needs to be back, or you need to come out and be like, he's not going to be here for the season. But if he does come back, then my eyes will be on who gets kind of edged out of this rotation, how that impacts the team, and what that will look like once Tatum's minutes are back to, you know, that 30, 35 minute a night range, which I wouldn't expect until at least some point in April.
And one thing with him, I mean, him and Jaylen know how to play together. That's not really what we're kind of worried about. Like, those two know how to play. It's been 8 years now. they can adjust to each other. I'm not worried about that. It's more like I want to see how Tatum interacts with Vooch. I want to see how Tatum interacts with these young guys. Like, when's the last time Tatum's been on the court with like 3 young guys that are all like insane? Like how Walsh, Baylor, and Hugo would be. Like, those are the lineups I'm really excited about seeing.
And I think that he's going to be like the guy that calms things down. Like, and I've been saying this for a while. I expect him to come back in more of a quarterback role than like a receiver role. I think Brown will continue to be the receiver. I think Tatum will step in and just be the quarterback. Maybe White's touches go down a bit because Tatum's going to be on ball creating more. But I think that guys like Baylor, guys like Walsh, guys like Hugo, they're all going to benefit from Tatum just because even in his first couple of weeks back, teams are not going to want to leave him open. Teams are not going to want to leave the door open for a driving lane. And Tatum can just make such timely reads. And I think the ball finds you seams up. So that helps as well. You see a lot of shooters catch from Tatum. You don't really have to see them have to spin and relocate the ball for the seams. It's finding you on the money. And I think that's going to be a really big piece for just unlocking some more of the offensive upside of these younger
guys. That's really what I'm excited for, because playmaking Tatum is my favorite version of Tatum. His court vision and his ability to read defenses and make the right basketball play is the most underrated aspect of his game.
So I want to move on now because we're just talking about a lot of hypotheticals. I think that, we've made our points there. I want to talk about the 10-day editions. I want to talk about why the Celtics are doing this, why it's important, and what we should realistically expect over the next 4-ish weeks. So yesterday, Thursday, before the Celtics played the Warriors, they announced that they'd signed former Celtics guard returning Delano Banton to a 10-day contract. They then converted John Tonji's 2-way contract into a 10-day contract. And that brings them above that 14 roster spot minimum or 13 roster spot minimum that they were on previously. Now, overall, I think it's 28 days you can be under 14 roster spots, and that's collectively throughout the season. Once you hit that, you're screwed. So the Celtics have kind of hit pause on those 28 days counting down. And they've also been able to have a closer look at these guys while they're just trying to tread water that allows the pro rata of the way NBA contracts are paid to decrease to a point where when they eventually do sign people, it's not going to put them back into the tax. The other key factor here is Tanji, according to Yazzie Gosselin, who does some fantastic work over on the Third Apron. I highly recommend you go check that out. And while you're on Substack checking that out, make sure you go check out the Celtics Chronicle. Yazzie Gosselin put out on X yesterday that Tanji is still going to be eligible to re-sign with Boston as a 2-way guy after this 10-day, but he will become an unrestricted free agent. So the reason the Celtics are doing this is very simple. They're just treading water until they can afford to sign guys long-term. I know we spoke about this before we come on air, Billy, and I know you've got a far firmer grasp on this side of the ball than I do. So I wanted to see whether you could go through why this is so important, why we shouldn't expect any signings just yet, and obviously we spoke about the 2 vets and then a conversion and why that makes the most sense.
Yeah, so
and any key dates we should look for.
No worries. So what they're doing right now, it doesn't put us in any risk, and they're doing it with 10 days because NBA contracts are prorated. So if we do end up signing one of these guys for the full season, we want that can kicked so far down the road, it's going to be basically nothing when we sign them fully. Now, somebody like that's a NBA vet like Banton, even if we kick that can down to 10 days, which would be the max we could do, we wouldn't have enough money under the tax to sign him to a full vet minimum, even for the end of the season. So don't think that he's going to be hanging around. This is just treading water for the next couple weeks. I do think he gets a second 10-day, but I don't. There's just no way they're going to be able to keep him after that. It's going to be like a 2-way guy that you upscale to a full contract, and that will be a lot cheaper than a vet min.
So the way I've looked at it as well is, again, courtesy of Yazzie Gosselin, he put some out yesterday saying long term, he expects it to be eventually 2 vet minimum signings and then converting someone like Max Shulga from a 2-way into a full-scale deal. And if they time it right and they get the pro rata done perfectly, it should be that the Celtics are around about $7,000 underneath the luxury tax. So they're cutting it close and they're really needing to tread water. But that's kind of how it's going to look. So anyone that was hoping for like a big splash in the buyout market or for like somebody to just fall into your laps, I don't see it happening. One player I do have my eye on a little bit just because of the need for a guard, and he's nowhere near the player he was before his 2 or 3 years absentees with knee injuries. But I do have my eye on Alonzo Ball just because of the playmaking and the perimeter defense he can bring for you off the bench. I think he fits the Joe Mazzulla system, and just in terms of, hey, we just need you to shoot threes off the catch wet like 2 or 3 times a game, and the rest of the time we just need you to defend well and make smart reads. So I do have my eyes on Alonzo Boy if he's willing to sign a vet minimum till the end of the season, and then whoever else you can pick up. I think that's going to be pretty much the best you can hope for. If you can add some perimeter defense going into the postseason, fantastic. But overall, like no other team's getting an all-NBA caliber guy or an all-star caliber guy, depending on where you think Tatum's ceiling is for this season. I think an all-star is the very high ceiling for Tatum until the end of this season. No other team's getting one of those guys back so close to the playoffs. No other team's adding a guy like that. So the Celtics still have the biggest wild card in the East or in the entire NBA, just in terms of scalability to another level and to just a whole new stratosphere. So, yeah, I'm super excited for where this is going to run. I know there's a lot of questions out there at the minute, the way the rotation is going to shape up, the clunkiness that's going to come. But, yeah, this win over Golden State was great. And the scary thing is this team is genuinely going to improve if Tatum comes back.
And all these young guys getting these reps in these kind of big games is going to pay dividends down the line. Like, Hugo's 19 years old, and he's already had so much put on his shoulders already. And he's just thriving, like especially being able to play defense at an NBA level already at this age and show flashes of everything else. We've seen Walsh kind of grow up. All these guys kind of thrived with Tatum out. Now are going to be able to show what they can do with Tatum. It's going to be so much fun.
Okay, with that, I just wanted to ask everybody, make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to YouTube. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, hit that subscribe button. Show some love. I'll be back again at some point this weekend, and then me, Billy, or me and Brandon, depending on which way the rotation falls, we'll be back to start next week off too. Celtics play the Lakers on Sunday, so everybody make sure you're tuning in. Celtics need to get that dub. I'm really interested in the Jaylen Brown versus Luka Doncic matchup. With that, Billy, good to talk to you, bro. It's good to have you back in the rotation.
And anybody going to that Laker game, come say hey. I'll be there in a Hugo jersey.
There you go. Make sure you go show Billy some love. Everybody, deuces up. Speak to you soon. Peace.